morning. Welcome to 49ers in 5, your daily update on everything happening with the team that you need to know. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. Today is Thursday, October 25th, 2023. Here's what's happening with your San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco was off today, so there was no Kyle Shanahan day after game conference call. There were no press conferences of any kind, so we don't yet have an injury update. We're going to have to wait a few hours until Kyle Shanahan meets the media later today to find out how the boys are feeling after their second straight loss, this one to the Minnesota Vikings on Monday. Let's move straight to the audio portion of the show. Why waste any more time? Had a chance to hear Peter King, NFL insider, on 95.7 The Game. He was reassuring 49er fans that this loss is not anything that you need to freak out about.
There are some times when you should be really, really concerned, and there are some times when you should say, this loss is understandable. And I think that loss was understandable, although I do think that Brock Purdy, probably for the 3.5-hour flight back home last night, had to be absolutely kicking himself. He had plenty of time at the end of the game to just do what he always does, which is to hit the open guy. And what he tried to do on that last throw, from my eyes, is he tried to force it into a guy in a very small window where there was too many guys with the other jerseys on in coverage. So I think he probably learned something from that. I think there's a good chance that Kyle Shanahan learned something from that. But I would be concerned about the loss, but I wouldn't be overly concerned. I still think they're one of the best 5 or 6 teams in football.
Let's hope this is just a speed bump and the 49ers move on from it. But I kind of said the same thing after the Cleveland game, so we'll have to wait and see how it goes. A little more from Peter King now. The trade deadline is less than a week away. So what better person to ask than one of the preeminent sports insiders in the NFL? Peter, give us some names that could be moved, starting with the possibility of Brian Burns in Carolina.
There's increasing speculation around Carolina that they're not going to be able to re-sign him. So that's one name that I think is going to get some traction. I think 2 other names are both Tennessee Titans. One is DeAndre Hopkins. I do think that if somebody makes even a decent offer, even with a day 2 pick, I think Tennessee would be motivated to try to do something. And the other one is, would somebody really step up and make a huge offer for Derrick Henry? I'm not saying a 2, 3, 4, and 5, a Christian McCaffrey type offer, because he's got a little more mileage on his vehicle, so to speak, in Derrick Henry. Those are a few of the names I might expect to hear about in the next 6 days.
San Francisco clearly has a needed pass rusher. We've seen that not only on Monday night, but in a couple of games this season. They just are not able to get home. So the question then becomes, does John Lynch say F them picks one more time and go out and make an impact kind of move? They've been willing to do it before. We all know the Christian McCaffrey trade by now. Also a smaller trade, but still impactful, in Emmanuel Sanders in 2019. They're willing to take swings at the deadline. Will they take another one? We'll have to wait a few more days before we ultimately find out. We always give you one thing to read, one thing to watch, and one thing you might have missed. One thing to read, I tell you about it every week, but I love it. Matt Barrow's Minutia Minute column in The Athletic is always full of a bunch of good nuggets from the Niners' most recent game, including this one that has a very scary Christian McCaffrey statistic that really made me shudder a little bit. If you want to read the column, you can click the link in the description of this episode. One thing to watch, the GOAT, Jerry Rice, was a guest on the Insider Show on NFL Network. He kind of called out his old team, the 49ers, a little bit for how they've handled the last 2 weeks. I will also put the link to that in the description of the episode if you want to watch it, so feel free to click there. One thing you may have missed, this might only appeal to me, but it made me chuckle. I thought it was cool, so I'm passing it along to you. We all know Christian McCaffrey scored at least 1 touchdown from scrimmage yesterday. 16 straight games, including the playoffs, that he has done that. According to OddsShark, if you had bet $100 on him to score a touchdown at the beginning of the streak and rolled over your winnings, at this point, you would be up $480,000. Man, it's good work if you can get it. If I only knew then what I know now, right? That's a wrap on today's 49ers in 5. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Stay tuned for Stats and Cone. That's 9 a.m. Pacific time live on YouTube. I'll also turn into a podcast, of course, later, as we always do. Plenty of spice to talk about this week with the Niners coming in 2 straight losses. I know Grant's fired up. I'm sure he's got a lot to say. So you're going to want to join us for that. Bring your questions and your comments as well. Try and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. We'll talk later today.